ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुमितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तां सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we will first discuss rest of verses for chapter 17 from verse 23 onwards and finish this chapter 17 today. And then we will have Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 revision. So we have Parth, Subhash and Padma Kumar Prabhus scheduled to present chapter 2 today. I request all of you that today if we can have a shorter length class, because tomorrow early morning Toronto time I have to write an exam for my Srimad Bhagavatam course. So I was supposed to start chapter 18 today after we finish 17, but because I have exam tomorrow, therefore I request your permission and blessings that if we can end early so that I can rest and wake up early for my exams. Thank you. So we are on chapter 17, the last section, which is section 4, verses 23 to 28. Title is Making Sacrifices Transcendental by Uttering Om Tat Sat. In this section, Krishna comes to the solution. Krishna says that if somebody's faith is not scriptural, faith is not transcendental, then how can that person elevate himself, or how can that person increase his faith? The solution is, Krishna says, one can make all activities transcendental by uttering Om Tat Sat. So Om Tat Sat is not just an utterance, rather it's a profound philosophical understanding of some higher reality, as well as it's a consciousness. So Arjuna's question at the start of chapter 17 is that chapter 16 ended with two extremes, that those who have faith and those who do not have faith. Therefore, at the start of chapter 17, Arjuna asks, what about those who are in between? That those who have faith, but that faith is not scriptural faith. What happens to them? There's a very important inquiry. So Krishna responds that by observing the modes, we can understand the person's faith in which mode it is. So we populated a chart for the various day-to-day items that we are involved, or that we do. And doing these items like yajna, dana, tapa, for example, religiosity activities, we don't gain anything in a tangible sense immediately when we are doing that activity. So, why are we doing those activities? Is because whatever is our faith gets reflected in our actions. And therefore, Krishna says that those who have faith, but which is not scriptural faith, then you have to look at their activities, that their activities they are performing under which mode. Therefore, we populated the chart, which is an extension of chapter 14 chart. So chapter 17 is the extension of chapter 14 chart, where we have granular level day-to-day understanding the modes. And this chapter 17 chart will continue in chapter 18 also, where we'll populate little more granular level day-to-day activities to understand which mode is affecting me or what is my faith by judging the activity that I am doing. You can judge the subtle faith or the subtle modes that are influencing me as well as anybody else. So now Krishna comes to the solution part in this last section, where Krishna says that if somebody's faith is not scriptural, somebody's faith is not transcendental, then how can that person elevate himself? How can that person increase his faith? And the answer is by reciting Om Tat Sat. That means there are these four levels where faith can fall. There can be the beginner who has no faith at all, materialistic people. Then next level up is non-scriptural faith. Further level up is then the person comes to scriptural faith. And then, of course, the highest level is transcendental faith. So non-scriptural means somebody has some faith in something that comes, say, from his own tradition or culture or whatever he is following, but it is not scriptural faith. Now, this is very important to understand that scriptural faith does not always have to be transcendental. So everything in Bhagavad Gita is not transcendental. Yes, Bhagavad Gita also has transcendental faith and transcendental activities also. But the chart we populated for chapter 14, chapter 17, and which will also populate for chapter 18, as well as Karma Kanda activities, these are given in Bhagavad Gita, but they are not transcendental levels. Yes, they are scriptural, but they are not highest. They are not at the transcendental level. So in chapter 17 itself also, Krishna has stated in 17.4 that Krishna describes faith in the three modes, that how people worship in goodness, they worship demigods, people in passion worship demons, and people in ignorance, they worship ghosts. So this is still scriptural faith, is within the three modes. Therefore, not everything taught in scriptures is transcendental. So we don't have to blindly follow, oh, I am following Bhagavad Gita. That means I am transcendental. No, you are following a section of Bhagavad Gita which is under the modes. Well, that is not highest. You have to follow the highest given in scriptures. And of course, Bhagavad Gita gives you the highest also. Bhagavad Gita gives you everything. For those who are materialistic, those who are demigod followers, then those who are Gyan Yogi, Ashtang Yogi, and Bhakti Yogis, everything is given in Bhagavad Gita. So we have to follow the highest and the easiest process, which is Bhakti Yoga. So in 17.17 also, Krishna has given transcendental faith. He says, Shraddha Paraya Tapam. Paraya means transcendental. Krishna has used this word Paraya means transcendental faith many times in Bhagavad Gita. So the chanting of Om Tat Sat can elevate one from non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith, and from scriptural faith to transcendental faith. I did a lot of base setting talking. Any questions, comments, realizations so far? Ansi Monarch.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I still did not get the difference between scriptural faith and transcendental faith.
Yeah, so scriptural faith means that which is described in scriptures, but it can still be under the modes. So Bhagavad Gita gives you faith levels in the modes. Chapter 17, for example, we have populated the whole chart. Say worship, that is in the modes, all kinds of modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. It is scriptural faith, but it is not the highest. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita, the chapter 17 also we populated. Pure faith is the worship of Supreme Lord. So that is highest. So scriptural faith can also be in a range that some is under the modes, while some is at the highest level or transcendental level. Monarch?
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you.
Everybody on the same page? So there's a question posted in the chat that is Srimad Bhagavatam completely transcendental? It's not. So you will notice that in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are examples of demons. Well, definitely it's not transcendental. So Bhagavatam also has both, which is under the modes as well as which is transcendental. Although understand, Bhagavatam has more focus on transcendence. There are many examples of transcendence compared to others. But yes, there are examples. So Bhagavatam is also both ways, under the modes as well as transcendental. Priya?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, so we will now start reading verses and discuss. So we are on chapter 17, verse number 23 onwards. Let's see. Deepa, are you able to read 23 translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Text 23. From the beginning of creation, the three worlds, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by the Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
So Om Tat Sat are three references to the absolute truth. So these three symbolic representations of Om Tat Sat, they are used in Vedas. Krishna is now explaining how things work in spiritual life in terms of gradual progression. So in Vedas, the Brahmanas, they while reciting Vedic hymns during yajna, it will generally start with Om. Not necessarily all three, but there's nothing wrong in reciting all three. If you look at Bhagavatam introduction, for example, Prabhupada ends the introduction, Bhagavatam introduction with Om Tat Sat. So we'll discuss that we don't have to always recite Om Tat Sat, but nothing wrong. You all are bhakti yogis, so you know the personal form of the Lord. So therefore you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You know God is person. His name is Krishna, Govinda, Rama, etc. So you call him by the personal names. So Krishna is explaining here the gradual progression. The gradual progression is initially one is just a materialistic person without any faith, without any reference to anything higher. Then one comes to some kind of faith, which is non-scriptural. Then he progresses to some faith, which is scriptural. And then he finally comes to the faith, which is transcendental. So these are the 4 levels, from faithless to non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith to transcendental faith. These are the 4 levels that one can progress through. So Krishna is describing that Om is very familiar in Vedic literature. And what is its purpose? Srila Prabhupada also uses Om Tat Sat at the introduction or at the end of introduction, say Srimad Bhagavatam introduction. So Om Tat Sat is a familiar Vedic invocation and is used in Hindu society today, any Vedic society, quite often. So Krishna says in broad terms, first point is that it refers to absolute truth. So each of these 3 words, Om Tat Sat, individually refer to absolute truth. Collectively also refer to absolute truth. Individually also refer to absolute truth. When people want to chant or refer to absolute truth, they can refer to absolute truth in the personalist sense, like how you all know that the absolute truth, God, is Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Govinda. These are his names. Narasimhadev, these are his names. You call him by these names. But when people do not want to refer to absolute truth in a personalist form, or they do not know about the personalist aspect of the absolute truth, then at such times they may refer to absolute truth as Om Tat Sat. So these people know that there is some higher power or some higher being. They just don't know that that higher power, that higher being is actually a person. Therefore, they are chanting Om Tat Sat because they don't know his name. So Om is non-personal way to address absolute truth. So there's a difference between non-personal and impersonal. So we don't use the word impersonal because impersonal is referring to what Mayavadis refer. But here the Om is referring to non-personal way of referring to the absolute truth or the supreme personality of Godhead, because they just don't know that God is a person or what is his name. So in general, the idea of referring to absolute truth by using non-specific designation. Non-specific means, what does Om refer to? Krishna refers to a specific person. Om does not necessarily refer to Krishna. It just refers to something higher. Or at least, that's what the understanding is of the person who is reciting Om Tat Sat. The person reciting Om Tat Sat is not addressing Krishna when he's chanting Om, because he just doesn't know. So he's referring to some higher being by reciting these words Om Tat Sat. But even if people do not understand, But they at least understand that I am referring to absolute truth by chanting Om Tat Sat. So Tat is also a name of absolute truth. So if you find a verse in scriptures, it will say Tat refers to Tattva Asi. Tattva Asi means you are that. So he's referring to saying Tat means I'm referring to an absolute truth and you are that absolute truth, whether or not I know you as a person. And Sat also refers to absolute truth as the eternal underlying cause and source of everything. So Om Tat Sat are the three ways to refer to absolute truth or refer to God. So Om Tat Sat is a universal way of addressing God in a sense that even if one does not know that there is God as a person, his name is Krishna, then one can refer to God by generic names or by uttering these generic names, Om Tat Sat, and this way one can become spiritually elevated. So from faithlessness to non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith to transcendental faith, like this, one can get elevated progressively. Questions, comments, realizations? Ria will read 24 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Text 24. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
So they begin performances of sacrifice, charity, austerity by starting with Om. Yajna, Dana, Tapa are considered pious activities in Vedic literature. By those who are seeking after the Brahman effulgence or absolute truth, meaning those who are seeking Brahman effulgence, they can seek the rapid method to transcendental path, or they can seek the gradual path of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So all these people, whenever they are doing yajna, dana, tapa, they do it starting with Om, and they do it according to scriptures. So what is the point of Krishna here? So Krishna is setting a precedence that this is how Om has been chanted earlier, and this Om can also be chanted by those who want to elevate their level of faith. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? So there's a question posted in the chat. It says, what is Tattvam Asi? It's often quoted by Srila Prabhupada as used by Mayavadis. So Tattva Asi, you have to understand according to context. So here what we discussed is that the person does not know that God is a person. that supreme being. So he knows there is some supreme power, but he doesn't know that supreme power is a person. So he's calling that supreme power as Tat, means Tattvasi. You are that. I am calling Tat as to refer to God. He's saying you are that, although I don't know that you are a person, but I am referring to Tat as some higher being. Abhishek Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Everybody on the same page? All right. Silence can mean either way. Okay. Drashti, would you like to read 25 translation?
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. Without desiring fruitive result, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word that the purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement.
So, without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifices, penance, charity with the word Tat. So those who are seeking liberation, they should chant Tat and perform these activities without attachment to fruits when they are doing activities such as Yagyatana Tapa. And they also chant Tat. And they attain liberation. They chant Tat in this way. So the word Tat also refers to absolute truth. And Tat can be chanted so that one can get liberation. So understand, Om is very common, and Om refers to absolute truth. Similarly, Tat also refers to absolute truth. And similarly, Sat also refers to absolute truth. Or you can recite the whole Om Tat Sat also to refer to absolute truth. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? So Ria has a question in the chat that Om Tat Sat is chanted by people who have non-scriptural faith only, or those with scriptural faith? Yeah, very good inquiry. So those who have non-scriptural faith, they will definitely chant Om Tat Sat because they don't know that supreme power, that absolute truth is a person, is Krishna. His name is also Govinda. He just doesn't know. Therefore, he is chanting Om Tat Sat. For those who have scriptural faith, meaning all of you, you definitely have scriptural faith. You definitely know Krishna is God. Krishna is absolute truth. He is a person. He is also known as Govinda, Gopal, Narsimadev, so many names. So we all are trying to revive a personal relationship with God. So obviously we will call him or refer him with his personal names rather than an official name or some non-personal name. So for example, you can refer to Prime Minister of a country by his name. That's a personal reference. Say Prime Minister of India is Narendra Modi. You can say Narendra Modi. Or You can just call somebody as Prime Minister of India. Well, that's a designation. Right? So there are different ways of calling the same person. So you all have scriptural faith. You definitely will use his personal names such as Krishna, Govinda, Narasimhadev, etc. And while you are doing yajnas, where the mantras start with Om, you will chant Om because that's how the mantra is. Simultaneously, there is nothing stopping you, all with scriptural faith, to also chant Om Tat Sat once a while because it is anyway referring to absolute truth. It is anyway auspicious. So the difference is those who don't have scriptural faith, they are chanting Om Tat Sat because they don't know at all. While you have an option, you just choose an option. Okay, I have scriptural faith, but today I am just choosing an option to refer to Krishna as Om Tat Sat. Priya, everybody?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And Prabhuji, sorry, yeah.
Priya, go ahead.
Prabhuji, with people with no faith, this doesn't apply. So it is mostly for those then who have non-scriptural faith, isn't it?
People, so what does not apply? People have no faith?
Like the Om Tat Sat or the understanding of Om Tat Sat.
Okay, repeat your question in full. I'm confused a little bit.
So this concept of or the chanting of Om Tat Sat, is you clear that it is mainly for non-scriptural people. So for faithless, the one who are just on the first part of that gradual progression, people who are materialistic and faithless, it doesn't apply to them, isn't it?
So there's a progression. So I described that there's a progression from faithless to scriptural faith. From faithless to non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith and to transcendental faith. So materialistic people, when they have to move from materialistic level to even non-scriptural faith, they will refer to absolute truth somehow. They can refer to Om, or they can just say there is some supreme being. I just don't know who he is or what he is. So Ria's point is correct that faithless, he has no faith. He doesn't. But when he is transitioning, how he will transition is what the solution Krishna is giving. That from faithless, when one has to progress and elevate himself, he has to chant Om Tat Sat or somehow remember the absolute truth. And that's how he progresses. And similarly in Srimad Bhagavatam also, at the very start of Canto 2, Parikshit Maharaj gives the solution for materialistic people, that materialistic people, they are enamored with big things. Like they like big ships and big buildings and big mountains. So Parikshit Maharaj's question on this, Sukadeva Goswami answers that materialistic people have this imagination. Now they can use that imagination to think that these big things are as if parts of Lord's body, meaning big mountains. Think of them as they are the bones of the Lord's body. So these mountains do not form parts of Lord's bones. It's just to move their materialistic imagination from materialism towards spirituality. Sukadeva Goswami gives them this option, and same thing Krishna is saying. Okay, somebody who's pure materialistic person, he wants to now progress towards spirituality for whatever has been the frustration in the material world. So what's his solution? He doesn't know the personal names of God. So how can he address God? And Krishna says the solution is for him to chant Om Tat Sat, even though he doesn't know that he's referring to some person, still he gets the benefit because in his mind he has that tattvasi, that I'm calling you, whosoever you are, whether you are a person or whether you are some energy or whatever that supreme absolute being you are, I'm referring to that. That's when they start chanting Om Tat Sat or somehow address the absolute truth. Riya, is that crystal clear?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is very clear now. Thank you. Hare
Everybody on
Krishna.
the same page? Riya asked a very good question. Silence doesn't tell me anything.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So we will now read chapter 17, verse 26 and 27. So we do have few new devotees. Let's get them. Pooja, are you able to read chapter 17, 26, 27 translation? Pooja, we cannot hear you. Pooja, are you able to unmute? Okay, Pooja, you can disconnect and connect again, and we'll get you to read the next one. All right. Ankur Prabhu, 26, 27 translation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Pratha. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So one uses Sat while doing different kinds of activities. So Krishna has talked about Om, and Krishna talked about Tat, and now Krishna is talking about Sat. So Sat is pronounced when Yajna Dana Tapa are performed. So while doing karma also, one can chant Om Tat Sat, or just Om, or just Tat, or just Sat. Here is of course referring to Sat, that while you are doing karma, you can recite Sat. So exactly what the point Riya was asking, that faithless, materialistic people, and that's exactly what Krishna is saying, that while you are doing your normal karma, pronounce Sat. You are trying to remember the higher being while you are doing your normal karma. That will help you get connected to the higher being. So there is material swadharma and there is transcendental swadharma. Whatever karma one is doing according to material or spiritual nature, while doing such karma, you can actually connect with the absolute truth by remembering Om Tat Sat. If I don't know that the absolute truth is a person, well, you all know that absolute truth, God, is Krishna, and therefore throughout your day while doing your activities, you will remember Krishna as Krishna or Govinda or Gopal or Narsimadev. While these faithless people who don't know the absolute truth is a person, they will chant Om Tat Sat or remember the absolute truth by Om Tat Sat. Now, those who are doing spiritual swadharma, they would know a little bit more than those who are materialistic, faithless people. And of course, spiritual swadharma is directly connected to absolute truth anyway, because the spiritual swadharma is meant for ultimate spiritual reality, Krishna. But what Krishna is pointing out here is that material dharma also we can remember Krishna while doing material dharma, or we can remember the same absolute truth, Krishna, if I don't know that he is person, by chanting either Om, either Tat, either Sat, or Om Tat Sat. So the question at the start of chapter 17, Arjuna asked was, what is the nature and destination of the person who has faith, but that faith is not scriptural? So Krishna is stating here that one has to come from non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith. And the chanting of Om Tat Sat can help one to come from non-scriptural faith to scriptural faith. So exactly, I explained to Ria's question a few minutes ago. That's exactly what Krishna is also explaining here. And at the same time, also understand that Om Tat Sat can be generically be used to refer to secondary names of God. Yes, you all have scriptural faith. You all know the absolute truth. God, Krishna, is a person. His name is Krishna, Govinda. But you can still use Om Tat Sat to refer to secondary names of God. So, example, the sun can be referred to as Surya or Ravi or Bhaskar. So there are different names. Similarly, absolute truth can also be referred to by different names. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure the silence tells me many of you have confusion, so you should ask, otherwise how will I know?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. So, I just want to clarify that. So the whole purpose of this Om Tat Sat is that there's, like you mentioned, it's not just uttering; it's a philosophical understanding. So the understanding is that whatever I'm doing, there is something higher, and that helps to elevate.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. Right? So one who is faithless, he doesn't know anything. But he is going through whatever in his life, and now he says, I need to turn to spirituality, some higher being, but I don't know what is that higher being, who is that higher being. Therefore, he is using the generic form of referring to absolute truth by uttering Om Tat Sat in whatever he is doing, whatever his day-to-day activity is doing, is uttering Om Tat Sat, or whatever Yajna Dana Tapa activity is doing, is also uttering Om Tat Sat. Abhishek Prabhu, everybody.
And we can also chant the Maha Mantra instead of referring to Om Sat Sat in our daily activities.
You are
Also, right?
absolutely correct. Yeah, yeah. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is definitely what we all should be chanting. In Canto 4, Chapter 12, the Dhruv Maharaj chapter, when Nanda and Sunanda came from Vaikuntha planet in an airplane to take Dhruv Maharaj back to spiritual world. Now Dhruv Maharaj is still very young, and he saw these personalities and he forgot everything. How to welcome? He forgot. So in hastiness, what Dhruv Maharaj did was, he simply offered obeisances with folded hands and he chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Means he chanted the names of the Lord. And Prabhupada says in that purport, in Canto 4, Chapter 12, one of the verse purport, Prabhupada says that a devotee should constantly chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whether he is in happiness or whether he is in distress. Hare Krishna Mahamantra should always be chanted. And before our start of the class today, I was playing the purport of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I will play again next time when we connect, and everybody should join early. It's only 4 minutes, but it's amazing. Prabhupada has explained so many important points that Hare Krishna Mahamantra came directly from spiritual world, and Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the means to revive our dormant love for Krishna or our dormant relationship. So it's a revival. They're not manufacturing anything new. It's a revival. Those who have attended Nectar of Devotion, we have discussed at great length that every living being, whether he is in animal body also, already has love for Krishna in him, but it is all dormant, including materialistic people in human form of life. It is dormant. So we are not manufacturing a new relationship. We are just reviving. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the process to revive. Abhishek Prabhu, everybody.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good. Last verse for today. Pooja, are you now able to unmute and read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. 28 translation.
Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Partha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next.
So now Krishna concludes that if someone says, I don't have any faith at all, then what happens? So faith is absolutely essential. Best faith is transcendental. Otherwise, one level down is scriptural faith, or at least have some kind of faith. That faith is required. Therefore, Krishna says, what happens if there is no faith at all? So sacrifice, charity performed without any faith, then it is not of much use. It is temporary or it is false. So if one is faithless, as Krishna has also stated earlier in 4.40 also, that someone is filled with doubts, that person cannot gain any good results either in this life or in the next life. Person cannot get happiness in this life or the next, and the same point Krishna is reiterating here. So Krishna has done this faith and faithless comparison in chapter 3 as well as chapter 4, and that's exactly the faith and faithless comparison Krishna is doing here, that somebody is faithless, then it's not of much use. It's temporary. So that's the last set of columns on your chapter 17 chart. I will soon populate. So when Krishna is saying faithless, what does that mean? Answer is, in principle, we can say that faithless is impossible, because even atheist has some kind of faith. So atheist has the faith in faithlessness. And those who are theists, they have faith in God or existence of God. So what does it mean, faith when it says faithlessness, means atheists, they have faith that there is no God. That is their level of faith. The word faithless is used in a sense as lack of anything spiritual, meaning anything not connected with God, that is ashraddha, that is faithless. That's what faithless is referred to. So in the intermediate sense, faithlessness can refer to one who does not have faith in God, does not have faith in spirituality. In such sense, faithlessness can also generally refer to what we call as non-believers. This is the faithlessness sense in which Krishna is using the word faithless in our discussions here. Therefore, there can be various levels of faith. The whole process of spiritual advancement is the gradual increase of the faith. So I've described this earlier and I'll repeat that faith is like our muscles. Somebody is born with a thick muscle. Similarly, somebody can be born with a lot of faith in God. And somebody is born with a very thin muscle that you can see through his bones, or somebody is born with very little faith. So somebody who is born with a very thin muscle, he can exercise to build his muscles. And similarly, somebody who has very little faith, he can do Krishna conscious activities such as studying scriptures like how we are studying right now, or chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or doing devotional services. There are many other activities of devotional services for Krishna. By these Krishna conscious activities, one can increase his faith in Krishna. Similarly, we also know that certain activities will decrease our faith. So say the other side of the example, that somebody is born with a thick muscle, but he doesn't do anything. He sits idle the whole day, does not exercise. Well, his thick muscle will become weak very, very soon. Similarly, if somebody is born with a lot of faith in Krishna, but he is engaged in illicit activities, is engaged in violence activities or immoral activities, vikarma activities, well, then he will lose his faith. So faith is like a muscle. You can increase or decrease depending on doing Krishna conscious and non-Krishna conscious activities. That means there can be non-scriptural faith, there can be scriptural faith, and then there can be transcendental faith. So non-scriptural means somebody has some faith in something that comes, say, in one's tradition or culture or whatever, but has no reference to scriptures. So that is non-scriptural faith. While scriptural faith can be at multiple levels. So scriptural faith can be under the modes which are described in Bhagavad Gita, which is lower level. So everything in Bhagavad Gita is not the highest. Everything is not transcendental in Bhagavad Gita. And then Bhagavad Gita also describes the highest level, which is the next level of faith is transcendental level. Why Bhagavad Gita gives you all this is Bhagavad Gita is not a book of commandments. Rather, Bhagavad Gita is a book of choices that Krishna says, here's your option that you can choose the lower path of worshipping demigods, for example, then you will attain lower result. Or you can choose to worship and serve Krishna, which is the highest, and you will attain highest destination. So we will always have our free will, and even for Arjuna also, Krishna does not take away the free will. In 18.63, Krishna, after speaking the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I have told you everything. Now you deliberate and do whatever you like to do. You have your free will. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita is a book of choices. So it's at all levels. And we have to choose the highest level. We have to use our free will properly. So the last column on your chart, let's populate that. So you have the very last column highlighted, which says non-faith. So the column title is No Faith in Supreme. Comes from verse number 28. And you are populating any sacrifice, austerity, charity without faith in the Supreme is impermanent, is useless in this life and next life. So I have explained that as part of our Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to give you 4 major charts. These 4 major charts will tell you where you are, will tell you where you want to go, and will also tell you how to get to where you want to go. So the first major chart was Yoga Ladder. The second major chart was chapter 14 on the modes. What we have on the screen, chapter 17 modes chart, which is the extension of chapter 14, is the third major chart, and the fourth major chart will come in chapter 18, which will be similar to this chapter 17 chart. Will again be granular level activities that we do on a day-to-day basis so that we can judge. So you can look at the chart. Now this chart is for yourself. You don't have to show others, hey, look, you are in mode of ignorance or you are in passion and I am in goodness. No. You don't have to do this for others. This chart is for you. Now, although I had prepared this chart for myself, this chart is not available any other place. I had prepared for myself and I'm sharing it with you. If it's useful to you, you can keep it. If it is not useful to you, you can trash it. Thus, we have completed chapter 17. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to 17th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of divisions of faith. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Prabhu, how faithless differ from non-scriptural faith, since both are not believing in spirituality? So
Yeah, you are correct. So faithless has absolutely no faith in spiritual path at all. Now you look on when you select the colors, when you are using Excel or Word and you have to color a chart, that gray scale is gray, like it's very light gray and gradually it becomes darker. Similarly, there's a progression happening, right? So somebody is faithless and now he's coming to non-scriptural faith. He's saying, I want to believe somebody that is higher or better than me. He still doesn't know the highest level, but he's saying, I am completely faithless. Not saying, but that's his level. And he says, now I want to move from being faithless to believing in something, and somebody in the family says, okay, here's what we have been doing from generations, grandfather, great grandfather, all the way. So he's believing in something, but that is still non-scriptural. Earlier, he was not believing in anything at all. Kunal?
Got it, bro. Thank you.
Polemy says, does it mean faithless people believe only in materials? Yes. Faithless people are generally materialistic people. And we discussed about them in chapter 16 also as to what their mentality and activities are. Not all materialistic people are demoniac, but some who are. Follow me?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Path Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question is, how do we consider the stance of agnostic people?
Give me some example.
Agnostics are, for example, those who don't know anything for certain. So, some agnostics, they believe in God. Some agnostics, they don't believe in God. They believe that God is an energy. So they are like non-committal in nature.
Yeah. So they will fall in between somewhere in faithless and non-scriptural, right? If they are non-committal to God at all, well, then they are faithless. So we discussed that what is Krishna referring to faithless or faith is in scriptures, something in spirituality. But if somebody is not having any faith, yes, their faith is non-existence of God, but we still will call them as faithless according to what we discussed, what Krishna is trying to tell us with the use of the word faithless. Pratyush.
Understood, Prabhuji. And also for non-scriptural, like for people following non-scriptural faiths like Abrahamic religions or those kind, they will never transcend. They will never be able to transcend themselves after death because they don't have our scriptural knowledge. Is that the right interpretation?
So if you actually look authorized scriptures such as Quran, such as Bible, such as Bhagavad Gita, at a high level, these authorized scriptures from various religions are common. That all scriptures say we have to attain love of God. The individual processes are different. That those who are Muslims, they pray in a different way. They sit on a mat in a particular way and pray in a particular pose with their hands. Those who are Christians, their process of worship is different. They go to church and their process is different. Those who follow Bhagavad Gita, we raise our hands and we chant Hare Krishna. So individual processes are different. Essential principle is same. So it's not a black and white answer that those who are following other religion that they will never attain love of God. That's not a black and white answer. As long as they follow it properly. The challenge is, take an example of Christianity. Christianity, they don't have authorized purports. And they are interpreting different people who have 4 defects. They are creating interpretations. Well, it will be subject to 4 defects. So one of the commandment of Bible, the original Bible, it says, thou shalt not kill. Now, what Christians did was to satisfy their tongue's taste. They came up with this interpretation that the soul in animal body is different and soul in human body is different. So it's okay to kill soul of animal body and eat it. Well, They just have created this for themselves to satisfy their tongue. So we clearly know from Bhagavad Gita that the soul is same, whether the soul is in human body or terrorist body or bird body or dog body or reptile body, does not matter. The soul is same. So this is where the challenge lies, that those who have misinterpreted, well, then they are not following Christianity properly, right? If they follow Christianity properly, they can also attain love of God. We'll have this discussion in 18.66, but I have briefly answered right now. Pratyush, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
All right. Everybody on the same page?
Yes.
All right. So I'll give you spiritual endeavor question. So Bhagavad Gita is sung on a battlefield. And Arjuna started with his confusion whether to fight or not. So the spiritual endeavor question is, when is the last time there has been any mention about fight in Bhagavad Gita? Everybody understands the question? All right, silence doesn't help me. Somebody wants
Prabhuji,
to...
does it mean, sorry, Prabhuji, does it mean which chapter, like which
Yeah,
chapter you're talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. Which chapter, which verse? The last time this word fight has come, or the reference to fight has come. Everybody? Who wants to repeat the question? Now I get silence.
I can do my words.
All right.
So um, uh, the question of Bhagavad Gita started with Arjuna's confusion about fighting. Now, there may be many references of fighting throughout Bhagavad Gita, and we have to see where is the last time it was used, or like latest in the end side.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So standard homework is that you read all the purports up to what we have covered. We have covered till chapter 17. And you also listen to Prabhupada lecture that I will post in the chat, and also answer this question. And for chapter 18, try to write the sections, chapter 18 sections on a new page, and leave the bottom half or the back side blank, because some sections have subsections. Although many of you do have access to the Google document where all these are already listed, but if you're taking notes on a paper, or if you're taking notes in an electronic mode, leave space, and we will add the subsections in between. So last time we revised Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, and today we are going to revise Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. So as you have the schedule on the screen, so today we have Parth, Subhash and Padma Kumar Prabhus to briefly talk about chapter 2 as an essence, and then I will also briefly summarize. Parth?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. At first, I seek permission from all the devotees present, Sri Guru Parampara and Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Krishna, to talk about the summary of verse 1 to 30 from chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Please forgive me for any shortcomings in my presentation. Chapter 2 describes the fundamental distinction between eternal soul and temporary body. Equanimity in worldly dualities, Strito Praggo, the characteristics of a liberated person. And subsequently, it discusses about Jnana, Karma, Bhakti, and ultimate surrender to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In chapter 2, there are so many sections. The first section is contains verse number 1 to 10, which describes about Arjuna's despondency and Lord Krishna's initial chastisement. Initially, Arjuna decided not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. When Arjuna came at the middle of the battlefield before the actual beginning of the war, he became bewildered and told the Lord that it is not possible for him to enjoy a kingdom after killing his own kinsmen. The decision was purely based on the body because he was thinking that the body was himself and that the bodily relation was his brothers, brother-in-laws, nephews, grandfathers, teachers, and so on. To clear his bewilderment, he surrenders to Lord Krishna and seeking his necessary guidance, which is mentioned in verse 7 of this chapter. We get the spiritual realization from this attitude or from this observation, realization of Arjuna is that at the time of distress, one who is a conditioned soul should consult with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra for coming out of bewilderment. Lord Krishna starts instructing Arjuna from verse number 10 of this chapter 2. Lord Krishna begins his instruction. Lord Krishna confirms the eternity of the individual soul. He also confirms that Arjuna and all the kings have always existed and will always exist in future. In verse 13, it was stated about transmigration of spirit soul. The verse read as Dehina Ashmin Yatha Dehe Komaram Jauvanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Praptir Dhiras Tatra Namuyati. The translation is, the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Again, it was told about the size of our soul. The size of the soul is as small as 1 by 10,000 times of the tips of our hair. It is indestructible. It cannot be cut by any weapon, nor burned by fire, not moistened by water, nor withered by wind. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death. It only changes bodies. Just a person passes on new clothes and leaves the old one. The soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless body. Section 3 constitutes verse number 26 to 30, dealing with skepticals. Krishna advises the possibility that one might believe that life is just a combination of chemicals, as viewed by many modern scientists. So even if the soul is not eternal and was born and died constantly, there is still no reason to lament. If life is just chemical, why grieve for their temporary combination? The absolute truth is that Krishna concludes in verse number 30, stating, O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, Arjuna should not grieve for any living entity. Key summary, we are not the body, we are spirit soul. I would like to conclude by saying that violence for the sake of justice in a righteous war is like a surgical operation. It is intended to cure, not to harm. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Subhash.
Hare Krishna to all the devotees here. I request permission and blessings from all the devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Radha Krishna to be able to speak on Bhagavad Gita. Please forgive me for my any shortcomings and mistakes. Here I'm going to do presentation on Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, which includes section 3 and 4. So first, starting with the section 3 named Karma Kanda fight, which includes the verses 31 to 38. So in this section, Arjuna argument in chapter 1.31 to 35 gets answered. So in that section, Arjuna does not want to fight because he cannot enjoy the victory, which will be covered with the blood. So Krishna counteracted this Arjuna argument with the first applications of Atmajnana, which is Karma Kanda. So Krishna here says, you are not this body, you are a soul, then live as a soul in this body. So Krishna says, like, if I come to know I am not this body, that doesn't mean I will stop acting in this world because we are in the material world. So Krishna says how to do this, and then Krishna explains how to live in this material world is like we can live in this material world in a dharmic way, following the scriptures, doing duty according to scriptures. And then what happens? It will provide material enjoyment at dharmic level, and since enjoyment is regulated, otherwise it will be like animal life. And the most significant point made here is karma kanda. The first step to get out of bodily concept of life, and it will lead to gradual elevation. And Krishna says, if you do not fight for Arjuna, you will not be able to enjoy, because fight is karma of Arjuna as a Kshatriya, and not doing his duties means having sinful reaction, material loss, infamy, and sin. So Krishna says doing your duty is the best option, and Krishna gives Arjuna the win-win situation. If he gets killed, he attains heaven, and if he wins, he can enjoy material gains, which will be the kingdom on earth. And now talking about the section 4, Niskam Karma Yoga, it includes verses 39 to 53. In this section, Arjuna fear in chapter 1.36 to 38 gets answered. Arjuna was fearful of sinful reaction. So Krishna answered here in this section. First question is to why to do the Niskam Karma Yoga. The reason is, if we know we are a soul, we need to focus going beyond the material existence to eternal spiritual existence, going back to Godhead. And Krishna answered Arjuna concern by saying Niskam Karma Yoga, from which he can stay free of all sinful reactions, because Arjuna will be acting with detachments from fruits of work. And it is also the second level of application of Atma Jnana. And if you do Niskam Karma Yoga, your activity brings no reaction, means selfless, no personal desires, and detached from fruits of work. So work with the detachment and in the devotional service to get higher platform than heaven, which is liberation. And in the sloka 2.47, Krishna says very important verse on Niskam Karma Yoga. कर्मण्य अधिकारस्त्य मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर मा ते संगस्तव अकर्माणि. And here Krishna made 4 important points. We have the right to duty, but we have no right to results, and we cannot consider ourselves as the doer, and not doing duty will not purify us. And in the subsequent verses, Arjuna inquires what are the characteristics of Niskam Karma Yogi, and it will be described in further presentation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very good. Padma Kumar.
Hare Krishna, I ask the permission from all devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Radha Krishna. Please forgive me for all my mistakes in this presentation. Leave it at the lotus feet. So the first verse we are talking is from verse 54 to 72. Arjun is asking, Sita Prajna. Sita means steady, Prajna means para means superior, Prajna Jnana means knowledge. So Sthita Prajna means superior knowledge, steady in superior knowledge, or Krishna consciousness. So next sentence is he's talking about mental concoctions which causes desires to arise. These desires cannot be artificially suppressed or stopped. One who engages in Krishna consciousness, the senses desires subdue without external efforts. It gets reduced. Then a man has four things like a soul which is supernatural, and mind is a subtle, and senses are gross body. So when we look inside, we are looking not at the mind or the intelligence, we are looking at the soul, which is Krishna, and that's how we find internal pleasure rather than looking for external pleasure. Then he's talking about sthita there, like mind is not disturbed by threefold miseries. The miseries can be minimized to the lowest because of God's grace. And similarly, happiness, which is given by the grace of God, can be used to perform more service to the Lord. The world is full of duality, good and evil, but he can only speak about, a devotee can only be concerned with matters about Krishna and talking about Krishna's glories. Then he comes to the next section, is called the restrained senses. In this, there is talking about how to follow the do and don'ts in the revealed scripture. The do's are follow the Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, consume the remnants from the Guru, devotional service along with other devotees, chanting, hearing God's glory, and don'ts is the four regulative principles. No sex, no intoxication, gambling, no meat eating. And also do not hear from Srimad Bhagavad Saptaham, which is like a commercial thing, which the people just go from place to place preaching. So in this verse, it also talks about the tortoise, like the tortoise can at any moment withdraw its senses and bring the senses out for particular reasons. So similarly, a devotee or a sage can do the same thing. He can withdraw his senses from desires and also bring out his senses for Krishna's service. So these restrictions are given for less intelligent people who are trying to get into Krishna consciousness, but who has already is well advanced in Krishna consciousness, loses his taste for this kind of pale things, the worldly desires. And similarly, Krishna will burn up all the desires when we take the name of chanting and do the do processes. Then it talks about the fall process. It has a chart of that fall process, 62, 63. And it's a thinking stage. Let me consider for a moment. Then by the verses, by contemplating the objects of senses. Then the feeling stage, or like it, develop attachment for the sense. The willing, doing stage, I want it at all cost, which leads to lust. Then who can stop me? Unsatisfied lust results in anger. Then there's a confusion of what is good or bad. Delusion arises. Forgetfulness of what is good or bad. Bewilderment of memory. misstating the bad to be good, loss of intelligence, and the person falls into material existence of fool. 63. Now, how to engage senses? That's verse 64 to 72. Always verify the thoughts with the scripture. One who is engaged without consciousness is certainly always in distress or without peace. Krishna consciousness is a peaceful conclusion which can be achieved in relationship with Krishna. Krishna is also called Rishikesh, the master of senses. So also always use the senses for Krishna consciousness only. And then the story about the night and the day. The sage is always alert during the day when the realistic people are enjoying, and that is a night for him. And the sage is alert in his daytime when he's thinking about Krishna. So one more thing is, when the desires come into the mind, do not accept it. A Krishna conscious person becomes an ocean. Senses come in one after the other, but he remains in peace. Like an ocean is always filled with water from the rivers flowing. Similarly, when the desires come in, the sage is always peaceful because he is like an ocean. So the desire doesn't affect him. So the statement is, well, the peace only comes by transcendence, not by indulgence. Desire for becoming Krishna consciousness is always desireless. Then he's talking about the last sentence of Antakale. So Antakale means to remember Krishna at the last moment of death, which is not possible because we are suffering at that point, stung by 1,000 scorpions. So the best solution given by the gurus and the acharyas is to always engage in Krishna consciousness when you are full healthy mentally and physically. And that time we know that at the last moment also, when it is not possible to remember Krishna, but we are lived a life full of Krishna consciousness, so that will help us get back to Godhead. And there is a word called Brahmi, that is Srimati Radharani. She gives peace to everyone. That's my conclusion for this. Plus, I forgot one sentence here, that how this is being split. There is a symptoms is given by Kabasha, is verse 55, and then Kim Pravesheta, his speech, verse 56 to 57, and then Kim Asita, it is restrained senses, 58 to 63, and Kim Prajeta, engaged senses, 64 to 72. Hare Krishna.
Okay, any questions, comments, realizations for presenters? All right, I will also quickly summarize chapter 2 and then I will give a quick feedback to presenters. So chapter 2 is titled Contents of Gita Summarized. In Sanskrit is Sankhya Yoga. Chapter 1 focus was on Arjuna's qualities, such as Arjuna is thoughtful, saintly, compassionate. Plus, chapter 1 focus was the need for scriptural guidance. Chapter 2 focus is on Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means analytical study. Chapter 2 focuses on the point that bodily emotions are illusory. Arjuna is indecisive, and therefore Arjuna gives indecision as the fifth reason to not fight. So we already discussed that Arjuna gave 4 reasons in chapter 1, and now he is giving the fifth reason, indecision to not fight. So Arjuna's options are: one is to fight, If Arjuna wins, he cannot enjoy because the win is tainted with killing friends and relatives. And if Arjuna is fighting and he loses, well, then Arjuna dies. Well, then he is anyway at a loss. And Arjuna's second option is to not fight. Well, then Arjuna will have to live by begging. Well, this also is disgraceful for a Kshatriya. Therefore, Arjuna is thinking about doing his duty as a Kshatriya. Arjuna thinks that all options, whether to fight or not fight, are lose situation. Therefore, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna in 2.7 and inquires, what is best in the long run? Please instruct me. 2.7 is the first junction point and a very important junction point in Bhagavad Gita. Kalpanya dosha upahata sabhava prachami tvam dharma samudha chetasha. Yat shreyasyat nishchitam bruvi tanme shishyase teham sadimam tvam prapanam. When one thinks, I don't know what to do, this is the beginning of intelligence. Intelligence means to know what to do when I don't know what to do. Meaning, when you do not know, seek help from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. At no point in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked how to fight or how to win the war. Rather, Arjuna is asking what is Shreyas, best in the long run for the soul. And even before Krishna teaches his first instruction about the soul, in 2.12, Krishna emphasizes the eternality of personality and eternality of individuality, that all of us are eternal persons. This way, at the very start, Krishna refutes Mayavad philosophy. Krishna gives his first instruction in 2.13 that you are not this body, you are a soul. With this first instruction, Krishna counters Arjuna's chapter 1 argument of compassion. The first instruction, 2.13 verse, is obviously very important. Tehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yonam jara tatha dehantra prapti dhiras tatra namuyati. Because soul is eternal, compassion for the temporary body is ignorance. So 2.13 verse refers to the word sober. Sober means not intoxicated. What is this referring to? My bodily concept of life is my intoxication. I am intoxicated to my body. Therefore, I am attached in my world. Then the various qualities of the soul are described. Soul is 1/10,000 of a tip of a hair. Soul cannot be killed. Then Krishna counters Arjuna's loss of enjoyment argument to not fight with the first application of Atmagyan, that is Karma Kanda. Krishna says, you are not body, you are soul, then live as a soul in this world. If I come to know I am not this body, this does not mean I will stop acting at bodily level. I still have to act because I am still in the material world. So how do I act in life? Therefore, Krishna explains how to live life in material world in a dharmic way, meaning do your duty, live according to scriptures. Karma Kanda provides material enjoyment at a dharmic level, meaning sense enjoyment in a regulated way. Otherwise, one is living an animalistic way of life, even though he is in a human form of life. First step to get out of bodily concept of life is karma kanda. Karma kanda leads to gradual elevation. So Arjuna was thinking lose, lose, lose situation, but Krishna is showing win, win, win situation. Krishna says, if you do not fight, you will not be able to enjoy. Plus, Arjuna will incur sin if Arjuna does not fight. Krishna says, if enjoyment is your concern, then fighting is your best option, meaning doing your duty is your best option. Meaning, if Arjuna is killed, Arjuna will attain heaven. And if Arjuna wins, Arjuna will enjoy the kingdom on earth. Krishna then counters Arjuna's sinful reaction argument to not fight with the second application of Atmagyan, which is Nishkam Karma Yoga. If you know you are soul, then you should focus on going beyond material existence to eternal spiritual existence. Therefore, Krishna says if you do Nishkam Karma Yoga, then your activity will bring no reaction. Nishkam Karma Yoga means you are selfless, you don't have personal desire, and you are detached from fruits of work. Therefore, fight with detachment, then there will be no sinful reaction. Again, 2.47 is a very important verse, the Nishkam Karma Yoga verse. Subhash Prabhu also very nicely recited. Karmani vadhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sango astu karmani. That you have the right to results. No, that's not what the verse says. The verse says you have the right to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to results. Never consider yourself to be the cause of results and never be attached to not doing your duty. So at this point, after hearing the Nishkam Karma Yogi, how he acts with detachment, Arjuna is confused because in the whole Nishkam Karma Yoga section, there is no mention of fight. Therefore, on hearing about Nishkam Karma Yoga, Arjuna asks 4 questions to know who is this Nishkam Karma Yogi? Will he fight? Arjuna is asking characteristics of such Nishkam Karma Yogi to know whether such a yogi will fight or not. Krishna describes characteristics of Sthita Prajna, meaning the characteristics of Nishkam Karma Yogi. So although 2.54, the Sthita Prajna verse is not a key memorization verse, but definitely a very important verse. Arjuna Uvacha Sthita Prajnasya Kabasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthitadi Kim Prabhaseta Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim. So Arjuna is asking 4 questions in here and Krishna is responding. First question is, what are the characteristics of Nishkam Karma Yogi? Krishna gives the answer that give up external pleasures and be satisfied within by turning the mind inwards. Meaning, desires originating from the mind are to be given up. Inside the body, we have mind and we have soul. Mind is not spiritual. To understand the internal reference point, it should not be body, but internal reference point should be soul. For a soul, both the physical body and the mind are both external. Desires inside the mind may seem internal, but from the soul's point of view, mind's desires are external. Therefore, desires of the mind are to be given up. Hence, Krishna says, look for happiness inside at spiritual level and not at mental level. Second question Arjuna asks, what is his speech? Krishna gives the answer. Speech is determined by our thoughts. Sthita Prajna is equipoised in happiness and distress. Generally, in distress, one becomes dejected, and in happiness, one is thinking of more and more desires. So Sthita Prajna, he is not getting dejected when distress happens, and in happiness, he is not thinking of more and more desires. He accepts whatever comes. So happiness generates more desires. And when misery comes, I think, why is this happening to me? But Sthita Prajna is not affected either by happiness nor by distress. The third question Arjuna asks is, how does he restrain his senses? Krishna gives the answer that withdraw your senses like a tortoise. Use the senses only when they are required. Senses are my weak points. I perceive the external world with senses. Therefore, I have to guard my weak senses. The wandering senses take me into the storm. The fourth question Arjuna asks is, how does this Nishkam Karma Yogi engage his senses? Krishna answers that restraint alone of the senses is not enough. Therefore, Krishna says, engage senses in devotional service, meaning simultaneous to controlling senses, positively engage senses in Krishna conscious activities. And Srila Prabhupada explains, yogi is one who can control the senses according to a plan, meaning engage in Krishna's service. Example of talking. Devotee talks about Krishna. At other times, when there is talking, devotee may not talk, meaning he is withdrawing the sense of talking, just as a tortoise. If one does not regulate the senses, then fall down from spirituality happens. At initial stages of spiritual life, I cannot just trust my intelligence. I have to do regular scriptural study to develop higher taste of spirituality. Scriptures are my intelligence. Senses are always going to wander. But if I let my mind fix on the senses, that becomes the problem. Therefore, in 2.62, a very important verse, Krishna explained the word dhyayato. Imagining is the problem. Seeing is not the problem. Dhyayato, imagining, is the problem which leads to the fall down sequence. When mind becomes focused on senses, then mind drags intelligence away. So what's the solution? Solution is, don't let there be a hole or empty space in your mind. Rather, make a hill in the mind filled with Krishna conscious activities such as chanting japa, kirtan, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam verses, focusing on doing services, hearing kirtan, etc. So Maya enters through a small crack and then expands through a foam, like a foam. Therefore, do not leave an empty space, an empty hole in your mind. That's a quick summary of chapter 2. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, last point is my feedback. So although I'm going to give feedback to the today's presenters, it actually is a learning for everyone. So all of you did the presentations properly by starting with proper invocation. Parth Prabhu and Subhash Prabhu, I have no feedback. You did your presentation very properly. You heard prior recording and you spoke in your own words. So this is the appropriate way of doing the presentation. Now, Padma Kumar Prabhu's presentation, yes, he did speak all the valid points, but there wasn't really a story connecting all the dots. So what Padma Kumar Prabhu was doing was, he was speaking individual points rather than weaving a story as to here's the question, here's the answer. Here's the question, here's the answer. So my recommendation to all of you is I have sent to everyone. If anybody is not received, you can get it from me. You just have to listen to the previous batch's revision recording and speak in your own words, right? You don't have to create from something from scratch. You just listen to the revision recording, not the whole class. There's nothing wrong in listening to the whole class recordings for your understanding. But listen to the previous recording and you just talk about the essence. You don't have to go line by line as to what he's talking. You have to build a story. You have to try to sell. What exactly are you trying to present? What exactly are you trying to preach? So I'm hoping Padma Kumar Prabhu and everybody takes this my feedback as learning. I'm not here to chastise. We are all here to learn and just learn on how to present. So just listen to the previous batch's recording. I've sent to everybody. If somebody still doesn't have it, you can get it from me. For next week, we have the presenters for chapter 3 is Abhishek and Paulomi. I have on the screen. And for chapter 4, we have Shruti, Monarch, and Pratyush Prabhus. So all of you try this. You should also try to stick within your time allotted. I'm not here sitting with a stick that why you went over. No, but we should try that we try to present within the allotted time and only speak of the essence. We don't have to go into the verse by details. Everybody on the same page? Any questions, comments, realizations? All right. As I said at the start that I request an excuse from all of you that you please excuse me. Today I have an Srimad Bhagavatam exam to write tomorrow early morning Toronto time. So I need to end a little early so I can take rest and be fresh for my exam tomorrow. So I request your permission and blessings from all of you so that we can end early today. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Good
Krishna,
luck.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Good luck,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji,
Hare
good luck.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.